I'm like, you got it going on in every way. But good morning,
Good
Friday
morning.
Huddle.
Oh, hi,
What was
y'all.
that?
We were just talking about some things earlier. We're like, oh, I guess we could all have a conversation together. So we brought all of y'all into our pre-coffee conversation. I'm
First
in
sip time.
a
First sip, everybody. First sip.
That's
happy
right.
Friday. How is everybody? There's no cameras on. If my camera's on looking like this, y'all's camera should be on. Michelle Peacock, how
My
about those
camera's
Aggies?
always on. Always on.
Michelle's.
I know. How about those Aggies?
How about them?
So I was just telling Renee this, y'all. Okay, this is shocking news. You ready? AI doesn't know everything. And you know how everybody's always talking about AI is going to replace the agent and everybody's freaking out and losing their minds? Here is why I will tell you this. So, y'all know Phil Stringer. Phil, I'm in Park City right now. Phil was in Salt Lake City speaking at an event, and so he and his fiance came up to spend a few days with us here. And we were talking about the March Madness brackets because I love basketball and I love the March Madness, and I do this for my clients. Every year we do a March Madness bracket. And I said, you got to be a part of my March Madness. And he's like, all right. He goes, I said, you have to fill it out before the deadline. He goes, watch this. So he pulls it into Claude. This was fascinating. And he tells Claude, based on do the research, all the things, and fill out the bracket. And he's not even touching the computer, and he's got the bracket, and it's literally doing all the research on all the different teams around the nation, and it's filling out the bracket. And one of those, Claude bet against my Aggies. I said, that's a bad move. He goes, no, this is what Claude says. This is all the research, everything. Sorry, I'm betting against your Aggies. I'm like, you're going down, right? So talking trash. Well, guess who won the game last night? The underdogs, the Aggies against St. Mary's. And I was like, you can't underestimate the heart of an Aggie. And it's kind of like the agents, right? Like you can't, there's tools that we can use to put into our business to make us more efficient and all the things, but there's still the heart in whatever we're doing. So we're not being replaced, y'all. My Aggies are going to keep going. Megan Clark.
And also,
I see you
not to
laughing.
be the Debbie Downer here, some entrepreneurs, some agents will be replaced. They will. When Elizabeth shared this perspective, I said, "Oh my goodness," puts me in mind of a dear mentor of many of ours, Phil M. Jones. Yesterday, Phil posted on his stories something very poignant to this conversation. Number one is most of us advocate for leveraging AI and technology. Yes. We just also advocate to do so responsibly so that we're not replaced. And what Phil put on his story really hit me hard. His story said on Instagram, you can ask AI to draw you a Picasso, but you will not have a Picasso. And one of the big differences there is where once information was power, information is no longer power. Insights are what creates power. Insights, the way you bring, to your point, Elizabeth, the heart behind the information, the experience, the education, the guidance. So, yeah, I thought that was really powerful. You can ask AI to draw you a Picasso. You're not going to have a Picasso.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. Well, I just think it was really interesting, but it's a tool. Also, there were a number of us on, Renee and I were on the leadership call. There's a leadership call every Thursday, that Leo and Wendy and a number of people are always on, and they're kind of presenting different information with the company. And so obviously with all the portal wars and everything that's going out, sorry, my allergies are killing me. I can't even talk. There's a lot of misinformation, there's a lot of confusion, all the things. So I sent an email out last night. Did y'all get it? Because if not, I'm hoping it didn't go through the spam. Okay, so you might want to check your spam. I sent out an email on that because it was pretty eye-opening with the conversations. If you didn't get it, send me a note and I will resend it to you guys. But I think it gives you an overview of what's going on and where we're well positioned as a company and how our responses and how Leo and our corporate teams are handling everything. It's pretty amazing to be at this company, and to see the respect that we have, and we're doing things that are different that are actually best for the agents and best for the consumers. So if you guys didn't get that, let me know. Some of y'all that have orgs like Silas, send them out to your orgs. I don't know if I have access to everybody, but I think the
And
more
mine
information.
definitely went to spam, so be sure to check your spam.
Here's one to
You
spam.
know,
Okay. Oh,
Elizabeth.
Brian was on there. Yeah.
Yeah. I think the biggest takeaway is there's a lot of white noise out there.
Totally.
It's just a lot of ping pong back and forth. And at the end of the day, this whole conversation about who's signing agreements, exclusive, exclusive is going to be completely irrelevant because everybody's going to be searching on LLMs. And those are searching every site in every portal. And so nothing is going to be exclusive at the end of the day here very, very soon. And so don't get caught up in the white noise because it literally is just headlines for the day and for the week.
I told someone it's a pissing match between a lot of the companies. So anyway, if you didn't see it, let me know, but it could be in spam. I love all these email blockers, but you can send it out to other people. So good meeting. And anytime we have stuff like that, we'll make sure that we send it out or we can talk about it here. Funk, we have a powerful guest on this morning.
We sure do. Amber Joy, welcome back. What I mentioned to Amber back in the waiting room before the Friday huddle started, as I said, number one, you deliver massive value. Number two, grateful for everything you pour into the real estate industry. And number three, but no less important, I deem Amber Joy as the best hair in entrepreneurship and real estate. Amazing powerhouse. So thank you.
I love that. Thank you. What an intro, man. That's the best ever. I like that she
Welcome.
started though. We like your content, but yeah, that I appreciate
You
that
look
you
good
started
while
with that. So thanks.
yeah, you look good while presenting it, right?
The wordsmith here needs to correct you. But and are two very different words. It was
That's
an and,
true.
not a but.
That's true. And I felt that. I feel the love. Thank you guys so much. And I love being here. I love my EXP community. I love the family tree. And thank you, Elizabeth and Renee and everybody for having me today. Let me share my screen here. So I'm excited to share this with you today because what I'm sharing is actually something that has, after coaching thousands and thousands of people, this one concept, and I normally talk about sphere constantly. This is not going to be my typical sphere. You will hear some sphere stuff in here, but this isn't going to be my typical sphere talk necessarily. But of course, it'll be sprinkled in. But this one concept, as simple as it is, has made the biggest difference in my coaching clients' business that maybe you already know, maybe you don't know, but it is what has made a massive difference for people. And it's called the power of 90. Are you guys seeing my screen okay? I just want to do that. Okay, cool. Thanks. So this is about, it doesn't matter if you're a new agent or if you've been in the business 24 years and beyond like myself, this has to be at the front and center of running our business. And it's called the power of 90. Stop chasing, start running a predictable, healthy business in just 90 minutes a day. So if we haven't met, I loved the introduction from you guys. I didn't put anything about hair in my introduction. Maybe I'll add that next time, Renee. But first and foremost, you know, I am where I am because of my Lord Jesus Christ. I give him all credit and glory. Married to Jason Esparza, known as the Rook in the training world, who's also an AI and technology genius. And the Lord just brought us together. Thank God. I have 4 kids and I have 2 grandkids and a third one on the way in July. I can't believe that. But I've been licensed since 2002. And about 11 years ago, after doing really well in sales, started my own training and coaching company called Influential Agent. On a personal note, I love plants and beaches and being waited on. I don't know about y'all, but it's just, that's what, you know, you got to have some of the fun. But I want to give you my information. You can either screenshot this or connect immediately on the phone if you want. But if you have questions after class, please reach out. Let's connect. Let's start staying in touch. And I'm happy to answer any questions you have as you hopefully go to implement later. So find me there. And also, if you're on Instagram, tag me. Let EXP know they should have been in this meeting. Let your friends know they should have been here in this today. Okay, you guys ready to go? Let me know. Let's get super active in the chat. When you guys are active in the chat, it lets me know that you are actively listening. Jason's helping me also in the chat. Thank God. He's my husband. So, all right, I'm excited to be here. Let me know in the chat. We're starting this off strong. If you can relate to number 1, 2, or 3, you will put a number in the chat if you can relate to any of these. And I'd have a hard time believing you're not at least one of these because we all have been at some point. Number 1, you're struggling to get consistent closings. And you start to question, what am I missing? Am I doing something wrong? 2, you're closing deals, but it feels chaotic. You're not sure. You're panicking at the closing table as you're celebrating, wondering, is this a repeatable process? How do I do this again? Or was this luck? And number 3, you're paying for leads and chasing cold prospects. So it feels like one of those, I'm starting over every time I have a closing. And that can be a stressful situation. Okay, I see a lot of 1s, 2s, 2s and 3s. Okay. Some of you are like, we're still reading. Okay. Thank y'all for being honest about that. When it rains, it pours. Yeah. Number 1. We have a lot of number 1s. Okay. Interesting. I think the top answer is number 1 so far in the group, but we do have a mixture of all 3. So the good news is no matter which one you are, all of them come from the same root problem. And that is there's no simple, repeatable system that's driving your business if you can relate to any of those. But I want you to know I have been there, and I've been there multiple times in my career, because how many of you know once you figure something out, that doesn't mean you don't have to be reminded of it later, right? So sometimes we fall off the wagon because there's brilliance in the basics, and sometimes we forget that. I've had seasons where I didn't have enough closings. I've had seasons where I had closings, but it felt chaotic and out of control. I personally have never paid for leads, but I have had a lot of coaching clients who used to pay for a lot of leads that were in category 3. So I can speak to all 3 of those here. But what I realized, regardless of where you're at, is it's not a market problem. A lot of people want to blame the market. Now, I will admit the market has been challenging. It's okay for us to admit that too. But if it was just a market problem, then why are there still agents who are iconing at EXP in a challenging market? It's not just the market, guys. So it's not a market problem. And guess what? I also found out it wasn't usually a skill problem. Now, if you're new, it could be a skill problem, but in general, it's usually not a skill problem either, because you can fail your way forward with the right activities. So the truth is, it was a consistency problem. Okay, with almost everyone. Because in this business, you can't plant seeds once in a while and expect a steady harvest. You need a simple daily system, and that's planting seeds every single day. Again, we're going to go back to that. There's brilliance in the basics. Now, this is what I call your daily 90, or the power of 90, or your 90-minute routine. And the daily 90 is simple, guys. It's what you do in 90 minutes a day that determines whether your business feels chaotic or whether it's predictable. And the truth is, most agents don't have a time problem. They have a focus problem. I myself can be challenged by focus with ADHD and now perimenopause. I know TMI, but you combine those 2 together and you've got to be really focused about your time. A lot of agents also, truthfully, are busy. I'm talking like mega busy, but they're not necessarily productive or working on the right things. They're just extremely busy. So instead of guessing what to do every day, I'm just going to give us a reminder today of what works. Again, it doesn't matter if you're new or if you're a top agent. If we get back to this simple, repeatable system, you're good. So today we're covering the daily 90. We're going to break this up into 3 30-minute blocks. I'm sure you guys have heard some version of this. I hope you have, but it's going to be a good reminder for everybody. But that's it. If you do these 3 things every day, you're going to create a consistent, predictable business. So it's not will it work? It does work without a shadow of a doubt. So I'm a big picture gal. So if anybody in the comments, anybody a big picture person, are you big picture or detail? Big picture or detail? So first I'm going to give you the big picture, and then we're going to break down the detail, and then I'll be here for any questions that you have. Jacqueline, big picture. Okay. A lot of big picture people in the house. So big picture The daily 90 is these three things. In the first 30 minutes, we are going to strengthen our relationship with our sphere of influence. And the second 30 minutes, we're going to follow up with people and leads that are already in motion. In the last 30 minutes, it's all about consistency to grow your network with more of your ideal client, new people. Okay. So if you want to look at the big picture of this, the 90 minutes is connect, convert, grow. And those are each 30-minute segments. That's how I like to look at it. When you wake up focused as a business owner to do those three things, connect, convert, and grow, there is no better formula than that right there. This is how you plant seeds daily. So you're waking up every month you're not wondering where your next closing is coming from. So let's break this down now for the detail people, because us big picture people know what we're about to hear, but let's give you some of the details because it might sound a little bit different than you've heard before. In the first 30 minutes, you're going to connect with your sphere. If you've heard me speak before, this part isn't going to shock you. This is where I cannot help but sprinkle in a little bit of sphere stuff because they should be the foundation of your business. I want you to memorize this slide, burn it in your brain. Okay. As a business owner, if sphere is not the foundation of your business, you will never get out of chaos. You will never get out of constantly needing a new lead. Okay. But what most agents are doing, as you look at this big picture, what do you see at the top? Those are what we call lead funnels. Okay. Lead funnels. Some of you call it sources of leads. Most agents are focused on the top all the time. That's why they're exhausted, because they're focused on that brand new lead all the time. And then they're ignoring their sphere of influence because they don't want to bother them. They don't want it to be awkward. And then times get tough. Why? Because what happens, you guys, when you work on the top lead funnels only, you shouldn't ignore the top ones, but when a lead converts, where does it go? It's going to go to your MET database, also known as your sphere of influence. So that should be the foundation so you can start building a referral-based business. Because if you ignore your sphere, because a lot of us do it, we don't mean to, but we do, what happens is you're working your butt off on the top on those lead funnels, and it's like pouring water into a pitcher with holes in it. Okay, you've got huge holes in your business, no different than the foundation of a home. Okay. And when you do that, it is going to be pure chaos. You're constantly going to feel like I'm doing good. And then it all falls apart. Okay. So we don't want that. And according to the National Association of Realtors, and they've based this on over 25 years of reports coming in, 70% of an agent's income comes from their sphere of influence. That's huge. That's a huge number. So let's look at this, guys. A lot of you might be thinking this, okay? Well, Amber, my sphere isn't moving right now. That's why I'm focusing on the top. Does anybody feel like that? Tell me in the comments. My sphere isn't moving right now, so I have to focus on other lead sources. You're not wrong, because only 8 to 12% of your sphere is going to move in the next 12 months, right? So they're not all moving. I understand that. Did you know that number is usually up to 15%? That market is affecting us in that way. A few less people are moving in the last few years. Did you know 12 to 14% of your sphere wants to invest in real estate in the next 12 months? That's huge. But let's get to this number that we forget about. When somebody says my sphere isn't moving right now, that's a red flag for me as a coach. Because did you realize that 100% of your sphere knows someone who's moving in the next 12 months? Okay, so we're not, mindset wise, we're not just going after them. We're going after serving our sphere at a high level. So we're top of mind for the people that they know that are moving. Because if you take a look at this, if your sphere has 300 people in it, and I don't know, let me know in the comments how many people your sphere has. But if they have 300 people in your sphere and each of them knows 100 people, which by the way, Harvard did a study, not Harvard, Stanford, that everybody knows anywhere between 600 to 700 people in their network. That's hard for me to think about. So I put 100. Even if it was 100, that's 30,000 opportunities for real estate referrals in one lead funnel called your sphere of influence. 30,000 opportunities. So instead of thinking of SOI, meaning sphere of influence, let's start reprogramming ourselves to get back to the basics that SOI means source of income. Okay, this is where the foundation of our business should come from in our mindset and in our daily lead generation plan. But yet, after coaching thousands of agents, they're so focused on the top, and the top looks different for everybody. They're so focused on those top lead funnels that they run out of time and neglect their sphere of influence, which is the foundation of their business. So you don't want to do that. Let's correct that problem today. Let me also say, a lot of people will say, no, Amber, I've got my sphere of influence taken care of. And I was like, well, oh, cool. Well, what do you do? And they're like, well, we've got them on this automation where they get emails every 2 weeks. As soon as you say automation, that's another red flag to me, because I love automations. Like I said, my husband and I, we're techie. We love automations. Your sphere relationships is not something that you can automate. It's not a real relationship if it's on a computer automation. So if you only have your sphere on automations, I can pretty much guarantee you that some of them will be swooped up and adopted by another agent. For sure, because there's no personal relationship. If I called your sphere today, how confident are you that they would say, without a shadow of a doubt, that you are their agent? They could name you as their agent. If you're not confident, that's just one of your signs to tighten this up in your business plan. So let's do a quick self-assessment. We're going to do this on all 30-minute segments. This is the end of the sphere one. Let's take a self-assessment together. You don't have to put it in the comments, but you can. I would love for you to be vulnerable because, hey, I've been there with you too, right? So let's do a self-assessment. How many one-to-one sphere contacts did you do this week, this month, this year? Do you know what each of your sphere does for a living and if they could benefit from referrals? You expect them to refer to you. Are you helping them? How are you serving your sphere at a high level? What value are providing them? Because automation is not value. So based on these 3 questions and the answers that you're answering to yourself, let me ask you in the comments, are you crushing it in the category or do you have some work to do? Let me know in the comments. What do you guys think? Okay, thank you, Silas, Joe, Jacqueline, Lizette. Okay, Elizabeth, Mary Lynn. Okay, this is good, guys, because recognizing it allows us to go, oh, I need to make a plan now. So what I'm going to ask you to do is whatever your note-taking, whatever you like to do for note-taking, whether you have a task manager, you keep everything on your calendar, I'm going to ask you to go ahead and make a quick note that this is something you need to revisit ASAP after this call, a plan to get this corrected. Because let me tell you, if you do correct it, what the good consequences could possibly be, or if you don't correct it, what the consequences are. Let me show you what this can do for your business when you consistently do your sphere. Now, I'm going to base these numbers based on statistics of having a really good sphere system, not an automated system. But if your sphere is 300 people and 20% of them sent you a referral, not 20% are moving because only 8 to 12% are moving, but they know someone who's moving. So let's go 20% there. That's 60 warm leads a year. And let's say conservatively, only half of those close. Only half of those convert. That's 30 sales a year from one category. Okay. Now in my area, Allen, Texas, our average commission with 30 sales, and it's going to be different for everybody, is $500,000 in GCI from your sphere only. So we cannot neglect the sphere of influence. Those numbers, if you have a sphere of 500, is 50 sales and 860,000 in GCI. So I know people that nail this 30 minutes only and treat it as the most important thing in their day, and they're killing it. Now, if you're wondering, well, Amber, how do I do this? I don't have a good sphere system because you have to update it. If you've been using the same sphere system for the last 22 years, I can tell you it's not going to yield 20% like I was telling you. So I don't have time to get into the formula today because that's a whole nother class, but I do want you to know that's what I'm known for, is teaching the influential agent method of how to build a referral-based business using the latest in technology. So if you guys have questions about that and how to really do the 30 minutes consistently with what should you be doing with your sphere, to make sure you're not bothering them, to make sure you're providing high value and not being salesy, reach out to me on social media after this. It's info@influentialagent.com. I'm happy to help you with that. One of EXP's very own, Melanie McMullen, took the program, and she is now iconing strictly off of her Sphere 30 minutes a day category. Okay. After she's been in our program for a while now. We also have another one, Stephanie, who said she never got referrals from her Sphere because that's not what she was focused on. And she started doing that and got 8 referrals in just 30 days. And she said she had never seen anything like it. So if you need help with that, let me know. But today we need to move on to the other 30-minute segments. But are we all in agreement that we have some work to do in the Sphere, and that should be the foundation? Okay. So how are we doing? Everybody's doing good? All right, let's move on to the other two 30-minute segments. So we've covered the first 30 minutes is going to be connecting. Thank you, Sean. Connecting with your sphere of influence. That should be the foundation. That should be the first 30 minutes. That should be, hey, Amber, I don't have 90 minutes today. Okay, then it's going to be for sure the 30 minutes with the sphere, because that alone is going to be the most powerful thing you could do for your business. But let's move to the second 30-minute segment in your Power 90. And that is the convert section. You want to be the boss of lead follow-up, guys, because I'm sure you've heard this saying, the fortune is in the follow-up, period. And yet, here are exact statistics for real estate agents coming from NAR. It can take upwards of 6 contacts to make initial contact with a new lead. And on average, winning the deal requires at least 8 to 9 points of contact when it comes to leads. And yet, the average real estate agent only makes 2 attempts. So if we know that we need this, but most of us are doing this, and another stat, 45% of agents only attempt to follow up with a lead 1 time. When we know these statistics, we see, oh my gosh, there's some holes here. Then there was another statistic that was not these were all specific to real estate that I just gave you, but there was another statistic that came out that I got sales training on for all sales in general in the United States. And they said that 80% of all leads don't convert until the 5th to 12th contact. If I would have known that earlier on in my career, this would have made a huge difference, because I'm being 100% transparent. I'll give you an example. I do an open house, and I always had a great sign-in system. I prepared, I've taken Renee's class. I've had lots of years of open houses. I mean, I try to nail it when it comes to the open houses. But you're not nailing it unless you also do the follow-up part, which she talks about too, because you're just wasting your time if there's not a ton of follow-up afterwards, because they're not going to convert on the first contact. They're likely not even going to convert on the second or third. So here I was doing open houses, and I'd follow up. Sometimes you don't hear back. Follow up again, you don't hear back. I'd follow up a 3rd time, and I'm thinking, man, I'm doing good, because most agents aren't even making it to 3 contacts. But I didn't realize that 80% don't convert until the 5th to 12th contact. So by the 3rd contact, I'm like, well, clearly they don't need me, or they already have an agent, and I'd go and get another new lead. Sometimes we don't need more new leads. We need to follow up more with the ones that we already have. So knowing these numbers lets you know why this second 30-minute segment is so important. So when you follow up, basically you're spending 30 minutes following up with your leads. When following up, here is some important big picture things I need you to know. Deals are 127% more likely to close when video is involved with your follow-up process. You guys have to have, if you're building automations, which I love automations for new leads, you've got to have some video mixed in, make it human. Okay, if they just think that ChatGPT wrote all your follow-ups and there's no human pieces to it, it's not going to convert as high. The second thing you need to know about follow-up is the highest response rate of communication with consumers is text, at a 97% chance of getting a response. So while phone calls used to be the way to go, do you guys know that usually right now, the latest statistic that I have is that only 2 out of 10 people answer their phone, but that study that I could find was pre-pandemic. I think it's more like 1 in 10 people answer their phone. Like, so you've got to have ways to get to people other than just phone calls. Okay. So Jacqueline saying, tell us about the videos, please. Okay. So let me give you a little bit of an example on a new lead follow-up. So after an open house, the way that I'm going to, now this is different for every lead type, right? But I'm just giving you one example. After an open house, as soon as I leave the open house or by the next day or by Monday, if you're doing a weekend, you want to send a video text. Okay. We call those video notes in my world because it's kind of like the power of a handwritten note, but done with modern technology, and it converts higher because there's a face involved. Okay. It's a human on the other side. So I'm going to be sending a video note the second I leave that. For me, I do it right then, but a lot of people will do it on the Monday. You send a video note, just not produced, guys. This is not a produced video. This is a one-to-one video using their name of the people that signed in. You're sending a video text saying, hey, thank you so much for visiting, say their name because you've got that from the sign in. Hey, Stephanie, thank you for visiting 123 Main Street. I just wanted to let you know that if you have any questions about this property, this is my cell phone. So you can reply to this anytime. If you think of questions later, we also have some other properties in the area. I would love to know, what is the most important thing to you in the home you're about to buy? Because sometimes 20 people, you want to have those conversations, I realize, in the open house with them, but sometimes 20 people walk in at the same time and you don't always get to have those conversations. So sometimes you have to have them in a video note, but I love ending my video notes with a question because it prompts them to want to answer. Just make sure you know the video note is not supposed to be your whole presentation of why they should work with you. They should be 30 seconds or less. Okay, this is you connecting one-to-one immediately so you can start conversations and continue to follow up with them. And then they have your cell phone number. I've had people that had coaching clients that were like, Amber, I just want a listing off an open house in the neighborhood strictly because I sent the video note, because they'd never seen anybody do that before. They'd met a whole bunch of agents at open houses, but nobody had ever sent a video note. So they knew that those people were serious about their business and serious about lead follow-up, and that's who they wanted to list their house. So as soon as I do that video note and that's done, I then go into my CRM and I start them on a open house follow-up automation. Okay. That is going to be a 60-day follow-up. There's going to have 2 in the first week, 2 in the second week, and then it starts spanning out longer and longer. And every third one has a video of me in it. Okay. It's not just a boring email. Some of them are short and sweet, and we can't get into all the details of that in this class because this is more of a big picture class, not a follow-up automation class. But I do want you to know that you've got to be thinking as a business owner, how am I following up? What am I using? For some of you, there's no magic CRM. I hate to tell you that, but people ask me that constantly. What CRM should I use? Whichever one you'll use. I know that's the popular answer, but it's the truth. I don't care if you use an Excel spreadsheet to follow up. You just have to find a system that works for you. Now, I like CRMs, don't get me wrong, but you've just got to use something that will keep you consistent. So even if it's an Excel spreadsheet to list out all the leads the last time you contacted them and the next time you need to contact them, it doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't have to be fancy. There has to be a focus on it, though. Yeah, Renee says consistency and good habits for the win. Amen. So don't let your technology skills, I hear people, well, I can't do this. I'm tech challenged. How many of you are saying that? Y'all, when I got my real estate license, I didn't know how to copy and paste barely. I mean, I was a missionary kid. We didn't even have computers. I barely knew how to type. Okay. Now I'm a tech trainer, but we could all get there. Sean. Yeah. Okay. So let's do a self-assessment on the follow-up section. Okay. When it comes to follow-up in your business, here's just a few questions. Do you have a system to follow up with leads, even if it's an Excel spreadsheet? Or are you all over the place? You've got napkins, you've got business cards, you've got some notes in your car. That's not really a system. You're not going to be able to do that. Does your system include 8 to 12 contacts per lead, or are you just following up once like most agents? And lastly, are you using video and text in your follow-up system? So you want to mix it up. There's nothing wrong with throwing in some phone calls in there, but do you have those things built in? Okay. And Renee says our CRM has a 36 touch point for 12-month plan. So make sure that you have a system. Okay. And some of you are like, Bea, I was like, I have one, but I'm not using. Okay. Well, then there you go. So you're now realizing, okay, I need to get better at using this. So based on these 3 questions, how would you guys rate yourself? Let me know in the comments. Are you crushing it in the follow-up department, or do you have some work to do? Let me know in the comments. We're all in this together. There's zero judgment. Okay. Work to do. Okay. Man, I love y'all's transparency. Okay, good, good. Because now we all know. We know what we need to do. Okay. Sean's like, when I follow up, I crush it. Okay. Okay. And some of you, that's fine too. Like, hey, I'm doing good most of the time. Perfection isn't needed, guys, in this business. That's the cool thing. None of us are perfect, but imperfect action beats perfect inaction every time. So if you're one of those that's like, well, I don't have a CRM, or you think things have to be perfect, they don't. You're going to fail your way forward, but you got to do some consistency is the key, right? But you guys are mostly saying work to do. Okay. All right. This is good. We're all recognizing where we need to go. All right. Let's go ahead and go to the last 30-minute segment, and that would be the grow segment. Okay. So to recap, you guys remember where we're at? What was number 1? Number 1 was we need to connect with our sphere of influence in that first 30 minutes. What was number 2? That was all about converting, right? That's your lead follow-up 30 minutes. Let me just say this too. Do you guys realize that I keep saying open houses? We have a lot of lead sources that aren't just open houses, but I'm going back to that because we've already used that. Do you know a lot of people, and Renee, tell me if this is your experience too, but a lot of times, yes, there's people who are looking immediately, but a huge percentage of those people are 6 to 12 months out before buying or selling. They're researching properties. They're researching neighborhoods. They're not ready yet. That's why they're going to open houses versus having an agent show them around yet. So
There's
you
an
really
incubation period, and the agents who are always looking for the now end up being short-sighted instead of knowing that there's a key way to approach both. Good point, Amber.
amen to that. Because most agents think that a win to an open house is either getting a new buyer or getting a listing out of it. And those are definitely 2 wins. But the third win is I just met someone new to add to my database, because 100% of them knows someone who's moving in the next year, even if it's not them. Even if they come in a looky-loo. I used to be like, oh, they're not even buying at all. They just like looking at houses. Like, this is HGTV up in here. Okay. In reality, you got to switch your way of thinking. Even if they're not buying or selling, they know someone who is in the next 12 months. Get those people on your list and start relationship building with them. That's a huge win too. Okay. So building the database. Yes, exactly, Renee. I love that. So your last 30 minutes is all about growing your business. Because you can have a killer sphere system, but if your list is 50 or 100 people, you're limiting how much business you can do, right? So we have to always be thinking about growing, because if your list doesn't grow, well, then neither does your business. That's the bottom line. The list itself is so valuable. Instead of calling it a database, it's data bank, right? Like, this is the kind of thing we're thinking about. Who was it? Tina Cole, who said on stage, she was saying, everybody's like, you got a list to exist. And she said, no, you have to have a list to exist, right? It's about your database. It's about your list, especially the sphere portion of your list. But that's got to grow, and it's got to be a priority. And it's not going to be unless you build it into your daily routine. So when you are focused on that last 30 minutes, big picture, just because we don't have time again to make this an entire class on its own, which it could be, is you're going to ask yourself these 3 questions, and you might want to write these down. When you're thinking about that last 30 minutes, I want you to ask yourself, who is your ideal client? And don't say buyer or seller. We better get some branding work going if your only answer is buyer or seller. Okay. Is any buyer your ideal client? I didn't say who are you willing to work with. I said, who's your ideal? Because you have a sphere of whatever it is when you first get started. So what I mean by that is you've got coworkers you used to have, you have family members, you have people you've met in the past, your past life, and they're all over the place geographically, demographically, price range, and there's nothing you can do about that. You start where you start. But when you spend time in your daily 90, it's going to be to grow that list and start to refine it over time with more of your ideal client. And why would you spend time and money on somebody that you're willing to work with when you could spend time and money on attracting your ideal client? Okay. Again, it doesn't mean you won't only work with them. So I want you to ask yourself, who is your ideal client? Have you written that out? Do you have an ideal client avatar in mind? Because how do you know how to lead generate to get it if you don't know who they are? Right? So the second question is, where's your ideal client hanging out? Do you know? Maybe you need to do some research on that. Okay. Because where they're hanging out is likely the strategy that you're going to go after, because for everybody, this part looks different. And last question, once you know where they're hanging out, what is your strategy to attract them? And whatever the strategy is what you're going to spend that 30 minutes on. So for example, let's go back to the diagram of sphere being the foundation of your business. Some people might say, well, I'm going to do open houses to attract my ideal client. And my ideal client is in this neighborhood, in this price range, and I'm only going to do open houses in that area. Do you see what I'm saying? And then they develop a strategy around open houses to attract their ideal client. Some people might use Instagram. Okay, they might say, well, my ideal client is hanging out on Instagram, but in order to attract them, I have to use a particular type of content. My ideal client wants to live in country clubs, on golf courses. Therefore, I'm going to start making a ton of content on those things that attract just that person. Then you need a lead magnet. Okay. Now there's a whole classes on that too, but you see my point. You've got to develop a strategy. Now, do you have to be doing all these things? No, absolutely not. Okay. But these are just examples of things that you need to do in the growth portion. You can't just be like, well, I'm going to join the chamber. That's the number one thing I hear from people. Well, I joined the chamber. Oh, Lord. That's your strategy? Y'all, how's that working? Because a lot of people join the chamber. And I'm not saying it's wrong to join the chamber. That's not my point. My point is, okay, is your ideal client hanging out at the chamber? And if they are, how are you using those meetings to attract your ideal client? Have you grown your list because you've gone to those meetings? So you see what I'm saying, right? Now, here's my tip on when you are building a strategy around attracting new clients. I recommend you choose it based on your passions and your abilities. So those are two different things. Let me give you an example. I have a coaching client who loves to work out. I mean, man, I just want to be her so bad. I want to love to work out. I'm working on it. So every time I do it, there's not a love involved. So I'm trying to get there. But she loves working out. She goes to Orange Theory every morning, and she's obsessed with pickleball. So she decided she's going to get in clubs with pickleball where she is forced to meet new people. So it throws her into rotations of teams at her level, at a high level. And she uses that to constantly meet new people that she can add to her database. Okay. Now she doesn't do it on the first time. The first time she meets him, she's not like, hey, I'm Lugina, I'm a realtor. Like she starts building a relationship, but pretty quickly she's going to do good things by saying, well, what do you do for a living? And while they're getting ready to take a match, they're going to say, they're automatically going to, oh, well, what do you do for a living? They start conversations. She's gotten so much business from both of these places. And because she's passionate about working out and was going to do it anyway, she found a way to get business from what she already wanted to do anyway on a regular basis. So that's what I mean by your passion. For me, there was a certain charity that I was passionate about. So I started working in the offices of the charity because the people that worked in the corporate charity were some of my ideal clients. So I got to help a charity that I was passionate about every Monday afternoon, and I got to meet a ton of people that also had like values of me, but also were my ideal client that I got to add to my list that did end up buying and selling with me. So it's your passions and your abilities that you need to think about. Dawn says, I became a dance fitness instructor and I'm building relationships. Oh, good. Adding them to your database. I love that. Yeah, Renee says an easier way to join the chamber, leverage Regis office space. Yes, Regis, that's a great one because you can work and meet people. I love that every day. Perfect. So use your passions and use your interests. The other example I would give you is each one of you was born with unique talents and traits by God. I'm not saying we're automatically good at everything, but if you know, for example, that you're an introvert, you're not going to pick a lead source to meet new people. That's going to require you to be extroverted all the time. That's not a good plan. Okay. So you're going to base it on your abilities. That's what I mean by like abilities and facts. So you can see the Rook said facts because he's not going to do he would rather die than make open houses one of his lead sources because he's an introvert. Like, right. He's going to find a way to get leads online. So don't pick things that naturally go against your natural personality style, I guess I should say, when there's plenty of lead sources for the different personality styles. Because eventually you're going to burn out. So if you hear somebody on stage, you're like, well, they're doing open houses or they're doing YouTube videos, and you know that you never want to do that, then don't do that. Find one that works well for you, but all of them require consistency, okay? Regardless. So make sure your growth plan is quantifiable, is last, okay? So when you're in that last 30 minutes, you're not allowed to say, well, my growth plan is Instagram, and leave it at that. That's not really a plan now, is it? Okay. So it could be though, how would we make that same thing quantifiable? It would be, well, my growth plan is Instagram. Here's what that looks like. I'm going to post one post per day that has some call to action, including a lead magnet or something that will attract. I'm not saying you have to have a different lead magnet every day, but you have a way to put out content that's quantifiable of holding yourself accountable that I committed to do one post a day. It's not just I'm doing Instagram, and then you better take some classes, guys, on whatever that is. So for example, when I started making YouTube, one of my lead sources, well, you guys are going to go to somebody like a Levi, right? Like somebody who's already nailed it in YouTube, or it doesn't have to be him. It could be anybody that's doing really good at YouTube. But my point is, whatever source you do, go take specific training on that. And then you'll know how to fast forward through some of the hardships and know how am I going to attract, not just get on YouTube, how am I going to get names and email addresses and leads from it? Okay. And then once you figure that out, just make sure you have a quantifiable plan. YouTube, I'm going to put out one video a week that's quantifiable, right? I can't just say I'm doing YouTube. I'm doing one a week. It's a plan. It's a quantifiable. Okay. So let's do a self-assessment based on this, guys. Okay. Ready? Answer these questions to yourself and then let me know in the comments if you're nailing it or you got some work to do, crushing it or not. Do you have a quantifiable plan to add your ideal client to your database list? And lastly, let me just straight up ask you, how many names have you added to your list so far this year? Because this is the last month of the first quarter of the year. How many names have you added to your list so far? One red flag to you might be, I don't even know how many I've added. Ooh, that means you don't have a quantifiable plan. You don't know how many you're trying to add. You don't know how many you did add. We got to track this, guys. And if you're like, well, I track it and there's 0. Okay, well, there's another, that's a sign telling us, better do that. Okay. If you're still trying to figure out what your plan is, I'm going to give you a simple tip to start here. If you're like, okay, Amber's going to take me a little bit to figure out, do I want to do YouTube? Do I want to do where my ideal clients hanging out? I get it. In the meantime, here's the most simple, old school thing you'll ever hear until you figure it out. New school. Okay. Old school. You got business cards, right? How many of you got business cards? I went to that cool tech one, right? Where people could like scan it. And I realized that wasn't good. Like I needed to actually hand out business cards to people. A lot of people weren't getting the scan thing, but a quantifiable plan until you figure out who your ideal client is and what you want to do is to say, I'm going to hand out 25 business cards a week, 5 a day. So instead of when I go to Starbucks having my face in my phone, I'm going to hand out a card while I'm there. you know, or I'm going to, when I'm at that networking group, I'm going to make sure I'm handing out my card, because what happens is we have good intentions, but those business cards stay in the purse or wherever, and we don't give them out. So if you have a quantifiable plan, well, guess what? I had a quantifiable plan, you guys, of giving out 5 cards a day, 25 a week. And then my goal also was, out of the 25 I handed out, I wanted to collect 5 back. In other words, add, because you're not going to get all 25 of those. Some of those are fast conversations. So I thought, okay, if I hand out 5 a day, out of those 5, I want to have a meaningful enough conversation that I can collect 1 back. Okay. So while that may not sound like a lot to you, if you start gathering 5 new names a week times 52 weeks or however many times you're working, that ends up being a lot of names. Okay. So I forgot to hand out the cards. So what I did was add an appointment to my calendar on Monday morning at 7 a.m. The alarm went off and said, put 25 business cards in your car cup holder. Because if it's not on the calendar, it doesn't happen for me. So it would remind me every Monday morning. I'd count out 25. I put them in my cup holder. Because why? Because as realtors, we're always in the car. So it was like top of mind. Until those cards are gone, I'm on a mission. And they've got to be gone by the end of the week. Now, that is not a new school. That is not scalable, but it is something to do while you're trying to figure out the rest. Does that make sense? It's still a top of mind strategy that you can use in the meantime. So based on, yeah, Bridget, a physical reminder. So based on our last assessment, would you guys say, Sean says he's got work to do, I guess, because the thumbs down. Are you guys crushing it, or do you have work to do when it comes to adding people to adding your ideal client also specifically to your list? Let me know in the chat which one you are. Rachel Self. Okay, planning, work to do. Good. Also, if you guys need help with establishing like a worksheet that shows you what mental exercises to go through to identify your ideal client, or to develop a plan around that, reach out to me and I'll send you my guide for that for free. Hit me up on social media, follow me on Instagram so that you won't go into my spam. Message me and I'll send it to you. Okay. At Mrs. Amber Joy is my Instagram handle. Okay. So let's recap this. Let's bring this all home. Let's tie it up with a bow, you guys. We're starting the weekend strong with huge ahas here. Let's recap this. We want to take our businesses from chaos to what we can control. We can't control everything in our business, right? But we can control the lead generation that we're doing. Okay. I always say this to my coaching clients. You can't actually control how many listings you get, guys. You can't control how many buyers you get. That's what makes us crazy. What you can control is the activities you're doing that lead to listings and new buyers. Can we all agree on that? So let's not focus on those things. Let's focus on the activities. Okay. And that's what our daily 90 is. It's the activities to take you from chaos to control. It's not a leads or a market problem. Let's recap that. It's a consistency problem. Okay. So if you have a system, thank you, Sean. If you have a system, which I call the power of 90, because it's powerful. It's simple as it is, it's powerful. If you have a system where in the first 30 minutes, let's recap it out, you're going to connect with your sphere of influence at a high level. The next 30 minutes, you're going to convert and do your lead follow-up for 30 minutes. And the last 30 minutes, you're going to grow your database with your ideal client. That could look as simple as, hey, I'm going to do 1 YouTube video a week for my ideal client. Therefore, on Monday, I'm going to research what topic I'm going to do in that 30 minutes. Tuesday, I'm going to start doing some filming. Wednesday, you get the point. Like, it's going to look a little different. You got to build a custom plan, but it's got to be quantifiable. And you're going to spend the last 30 minutes a day doing that. Plant seeds daily, and you will reap a consistent harvest. And that's what we're looking for. Consistency in this business. So I want to invite you to start your 90-day power routine today. You don't have to wait till next year. You don't have to wait till the beginning of the month. You can start it right away. You're in full control now that you know how to do the 90 minutes. Because I can tell you, AI or not, because we were talking about this at the beginning of the call, Consistent agents are the one who win, period. Okay. Win the 90 minutes and you're going to win your business. Relationships also win, but that was part of your first 30 minutes. So that's already included, right? So easier said than done. So here's a couple last minute things for you guys. If you're going to do your 90-minute routine, how do we actually make sure that happens, right? Because good intentions aren't enough. Here's some practical tips. Time block your 90-minute power routine before noon as early as possible. Now, I'm going to be honest with you guys. I'm not a morning person, but I still have to do mine in the morning. Why? 2 reasons. Because it turns out I'm not a night person either. No. About 3 or 4 o'clock, I start hitting a wall. Like I like to stay up late, but as far as actually being productive, I start hitting a wall about 3 or 4 p.m. Okay? The second reason, so I don't want to do them when my energy is at its lowest, I guess is my point. The second reason is as real estate agents. This is the filtered version because, you know, I'm not really a cusser. I try not to be. Stuff starts hitting the fan at around lunchtime and beyond when you're a realtor. Like most of the fires you have to put out in your business happens at lunch and beyond. They're not usually first thing in the morning. So get the most important things done by noon. That way, no matter what happens the rest of the day, it could be a shiz fire, you know what I'm saying? And you're still going to be golden no matter what happens because you made sure your power 90 was done before all of that happened. The second tip I'm going to give you is get an accountability partner. I know accountability can be a cuss word, and I just said I didn't cuss. That in itself is a curse word. So if you need to change your mindset, call it a success partner instead of an accountability partner. Call it a success partner. Start changing your frame of mind around the fact that I don't care how driven you are. If there's something that, number one, you're not used to doing, it's a new habit, or something you don't love doing, or both, you need accountability. Now, I would consider myself a driven person, and I still need accountability. Okay. So consider getting an accountability. Like Renee said, it's the strongest form of professional care. Absolutely. And actually, when I first did this Jason joke, because one of my favorite sayings was like, you're killing my free spirit with all this accountability. I'd say my free spirit, right? Because we all got in this business so we could be our own boss. What you quickly learn is the more discipline you have, the more freedom you have. Okay. You want to get out of the chaos anyway. So consider getting an accountability partner or call it a success partner. And lastly, eliminate distractions on your calendar that aren't leading you towards your goals and delegate the rest. Okay. This takes time. What I find is there's some agents that say, I don't have time to do 90 minutes a day. And here's what I say to that. I know we're ending here. It's 10 o'clock. If you were to get a job somewhere else and you told your boss, I can't work 90 minutes a day, you would be fired. I mean, like what? But when it's your business and you benefit and you're the owner, you're not going to do it for yourself? That don't make sense to me. That's a bold stance to take. That's Jason. So I would say that's one camp. The other camp is, no, they're willing to do the 90 minutes. They just really are freaking busy. A lot of you guys are just busy. Okay. You're freaking busy. I get it. That's how I feel. Like I'm busy. But here's the thing. 60% of what we do as an agent can be delegated. It's hard to delegate it because we think we can do better or we think we don't have the money to do it. But in reality, if you would give up some of that, you would have so much more time for lead generation that's going to bring you so many deals. So you've got to figure out, is this something that has to be done? Does it have to be done right now? And does it have to be done by me? Those are the 3 things that I was coached on that I had to ask myself every day. Does the next thing I'm about to do have to be done? Does it have to be done by me? Or does it have to be right now? And does it have to be done by me? If it doesn't, get rid of it. Delegate it to somebody else. 40% of what you do is actually bringing you money, is actually moving the needle. So when you combine these 3 things that you're seeing on the screen, that will allow you to nail your 90-minute routine. And if you have to start somewhere, just start with the first 30 minutes, get consistent with that, and then start stacking the other things. But it's not about doing more. So if you're feeling overwhelmed, I need you to hear this. It's not about doing more. It's about doing what matters most consistently. Okay? Because 90 minutes a day can completely change your business if you let it. If you let it, because each of you got into this business for a reason that is bigger than real estate. I hope you did. It's that big why. It's the reason that you must succeed, right? It's that, hey, I got in this business because I want to support so and so. I want to give back. Whatever it is, it's different for every person. I'm telling you, if you want to unlock your big why, if you want to unlock actually loving this business again, you've got to get consistent with the Power 90. It's as simple as that. So I want to encourage you guys. You've now had these epiphanies on the call today, and I realize it's not a one and done. I realize it's something that you're going to have to put a lot of focus in, and it's a lot of things you're going to have to practice at. But we've now realized where we're falling short, which means you have the power to fix it. So I want to encourage you to do that. Take control of your business and take control of the things that you can control, because there's so much in this life that you can't control. Start with the stuff that you can and watch freedom roll in. I want to thank you guys for having me today. If you have
Amber, you are
questions, hit me up.
awesome.
Thank you.
Great, great, great solid reminders. Thank you so much.
Some good reminders to all of us, even those of us that have been in the business a while. You were speaking directly to us, me. Okay, me. Thank you, Amber.
Good. Thanks, guys.
All right, you guys are amazing. Thank you for showing up for Huddle. I know it's spring break, so the fact that you showed up is awesome. Have an amazing, amazing weekend. We will see you guys next week. Bye, Amber. Thanks, guys.
Bye.